Good evening and welcome to another episode of What's So Funny, the show that probes the minds, the brains, and the psyches of the people who make the funny. Tonight's guest loves to talk about her vagina, but that's on stage. We got her off stage at her hotel where she opened up about all other facets of her life. You know her from 2 seasons of Last Comic Standing and The Tonight Show. Now, Nikki Glaser will be known for her frank and honest appearance on What's So Funny. Hope you enjoy. Here's Nikki Glaser. Nikki Glaser, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for doing this because it's a gorgeous day out.
It is.
I saw you tweeting about, I'm going to be in Vancouver. What can I do?
Yes.
And I didn't see any answer say, sit inside and do a podcast.
No, they didn't. But that's usually what I spend my time doing on the road. I enjoy podcasts. I have one of my own. So
I know.
I like participating in others.
You're one of the few comics who has a podcast.
Oh, you. Sarcasm. Yes, we all do. Even when I jumped on the bandwagon, which was a year and a half ago, I felt like it was a little bit late. Like, I'm getting into the game pretty late. But they keep on coming. I feel like I'm a veteran at this point.
Yeah.
And there's still new ones coming out and becoming big hits. And it's a competitive market out there, but it's really fun.
How's yours doing?
It's doing all right. It's we've pretty much kind of found our listeners, and they're sticking with us, and it's really fun, and it's hard to coordinate because both my co-host and I have to be available and in New York, and her apartment has to be available, and our sound guy has to be, and a lot of ducks have to be in a line for it to go down, but. We have we're getting we have a booker now, so we have someone who's like helping us book bigger names.
Is this how they do it?
Yeah, it's
man, you have
we're
a
still
sound
making
guy?
no money, so pretty much I would say $150 goes into every episode, and it's pretty expensive, and it's getting to a point where I feel like we need to start making money on it, or I can't keep doing it because
Really?
it's just kind of like this. I mean, obviously it's benefited me a lot in terms of like I got a TV talk show out of it. We shot a pilot for MTV. Not based on our podcast, but Sarah and I, my co-host, both Sarah Schaefer, both pitched a show to MTV, and we had the clout from our podcast for them to even listen to us and to trust us. And so I owe it to the podcast for a lot of good stuff that's happened. But it is like it's expensive. It's a lot of work.
You have the clout anyway, don't you?
No. Like you say about comedy podcasts, pretty much every comedian has my credits too. It's like Last Comic Standing. Pretty much every comic under the sun has been on that show at some point, which is a credit that I have 2 of. I did the show twice, and then the Tonight Show. It's a big deal, obviously, but not as much as it was back in the 70s or 80s, or when it would jettison you into this fame overnight. Now it's kind of like I did it 3.5 years ago, and it's there. It's a feather in my cap, but it's not something that is really that impressive to the industry any longer.
So the MTV pilot is you two, and I guess it's the same format as your podcast?
No, it is not. It's the only way it is like my podcast is that I host it with Sarah. It is
and is she a comic?
She's a stand-up comedian. Sarah Schaefer is her name. She's super funny. And she and I pitched this show to MTV. We knew that they were kind of we caught wind through certain people that MTV was looking for late night programming, girl oriented. And so we were like, let's get a pitch together. So we put together an idea for a late night talk show, kind of in the same vein of Chelsea Lately, a pop culture, a comment on pop culture, but ours is a little more excited about it as opposed to snarky about it. We make fun of it, but we pick and choose what we make fun of. But it's comedy based, and it's like a late night talk show. with us, we host it, and the first act is like a us doing weekend update style jokes, like monologue jokes, and in front of a desk. And it's set in Times Square, where we have the backdrop of Times Square. We shoot at night, and it's like a Friday night talk show. And then we have sketches and guest interviews. Like I interviewed Vinny for our pilot. I interviewed Vinny from the Jersey Shore, and we did it's kind of like a Daily Show style interview where he thinks he's being interviewed seriously, and the whole time my intention is just to hit on him the entire time. So it was a lot of fun, and it's a really funny show. And we find out next week if it gets picked up.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Thank you. It's been, man, this business really drags you through it. Our process has been, they say, pretty quick, but we've been working on this since October, and we submitted our first pilot in January, and then we were asked to reshoot it, and we did that in April. So it's just been ongoing, and it's hard for me because if the show does go, my life changes completely. I'm used to being on the road every week, and that will not be happening any longer. But I have to plan that I don't have a show. So I have all these dates booked that will have to be rearranged if it goes. So I'm planning for 2 separate lives right now.
Right.
Yeah.
That does sound quick, though. You're complaining. So
I know.
That sounds amazingly fast.
It is, yes, because they wanted to get it on air as soon as possible, but it's dragging, man. We were supposed to find out last week, and then they were like, no, so it's just, I'm just it's an announcement that will change the course of my career. So I'm eager to get the word.
Yeah, that Chelsea has really changed the landscape because now Whitney is doing a similar one. Yeah,
and that has a lot to do with whether or not we get picked up. The announcement of Whitney's show on E, I think, although it's going to be it would probably be on a different night than ours. It's starting this whole new genre that MTV will not have to compete with, and hopefully they realize that and will let us compete with it because it's all good news. I love hearing that women are getting more and more things because it only means good things for being a woman in this business.
Right. But here's the thing, which is pretty new to comedy. You're all hot women.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I say that with due respect.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I was
Whitney, Whitney, Chelsea, Natasha, Leggero.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you ever come across resentment from the other comics? Like I've heard Louis C.K. said when he sees a good-looking guy comic, no, it's not for you.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Like you were you popular in high school?
No.
Okay.
And that's the misconception is that, I wasn't like picked on and I wasn't like bullied mercilessly and I do harbor resentments, of course, but I was not popular in high school whatsoever. I wasn't, I didn't get my act together. I didn't become attractive until my 20s or late, mid 20s. I would say I got it 24. I got it together. So this,
what
I
happened?
swear,
You just came into your own?
I just came. Yeah, I was like a late bloomer in high school, and I had a couple good years maybe, but I didn't really learn how to like pluck my eyebrows and like wear makeup and like stuff like that. It wasn't like I was a tomboy. I was just kind of, and I had some other like issues, eating disorder things that kind of stunted my growth, I would say, as a woman. And so I was just very, I didn't become attractive until like maybe 20. And this sounds so ridiculous to say, but no one ever described me as such until I was 24, I would say. And then there was a backlash from other female comics who assumed that I was this chick who's always been super hot and one in particular kind of bullied me in my own home club in St. Louis, Missouri, and tried to like run me out of the game just by spreading lies about me sleeping around and stuff like that, and which was the opposite of me. And she had me pegged as like, this isn't for her. This isn't for girls who were popular, the cheerleaders. And I was like, I couldn't cheer if you put a gun to my head. Like I'm not that person. So, I forgot what your question was, but I was not,
okay.
I get defensive when it comes to that because I am not that person, and I'm still not. I'm very insecure and
Right,
don't have any of that.
But I think that's their insecurity too. But so
Absolutely.
what if you were popular and gorgeous
so
in
what?
high school? If you're funny, if you can do it on stage.
Yeah, it is like a so what thing, but I wasn't. So I like to say that. I like to prove that I wasn't. But like,
where's that comic now, by the way, who tried to run you out?
oh, she's all right. She's very funny, and she just had a baby, so I won. No, I'm just kidding. She's she's fine. I wish her a lot of luck, and I say that gritting my teeth. I'm not a big fan, and I get along with pretty much everyone except her.
You're not a big fan because of what transpired, not because of her act.
Her act is actually really good, and it's unfortunate that it is such. But
I find it hard. Or I find it interesting that a lot of comics can't separate the personality that they know from the act. Right? If they like someone who's not very good, they still think they're great.
Yeah.
Because they're friends and they're good people.
I can do that. I definitely have a lot of people that I love and their act is garbage. But I would never say that on a podcast.
Right.
But I will be with other friends. I will definitely talk some shit. But no, but I can still be friends with a shitty comic and respect them off stage completely. I can definitely separate the worlds.
And the converse is true as well. It could be a great comic and a miserable human being.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you find that a lot.
That's more often than not. Yes.
So your high school. Now, you were on Last Comic Standing pretty young. Well, you're pretty young now. You're 28, right?
Yes, I'm 28, or about to be. But I'm already there. I'm accepting it. No, it's I'm about to be 28. I started when the first time I was on stage was I was 18, and then
much too young.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was.
She should have run you out then.
Yes, she could have at that point, but she didn't get in. She didn't see me until I was in my early 20s, and I was already locked in the game. But I started when I first went on stage when I was 18, and then really got into it. I would say at like 20, a couple of years later when I got a car and I was, had done it a little more. The first time I went on stage was at like a show at my college. It wasn't like a real comedy club, and all my friends were there. It was very supportive, so it was awesome. And then I took a comedy class that summer at a club and went on stage for the first time at a club, and a little bit different, a little bit harder, still rewarding, but it took me, I was scared. And then eventually I got into it, and then there was no looking back.
So that when you were 18, you were in college. It was a college show.
Yes.
So you weren't, a retiring type or shy.
No, I was not. I did theater all through high school. So I knew that I had crippling stage fright until I was in 7th grade. And I, to the point where my parents were like, we're going to have to, because I would have a presentation to give in school and I wouldn't be able to sleep for a week. Like I would just have such anxiety over it. And my parents were going to send me to go see a specialist about it because it was just like, it would ruin my life for like a week before a presentation or a speech or something. And then suddenly I just had the itch to like do something I've always had a drive to like figure out what I want to be when I grow up really way too early. And I think that's helped me get into find what I wanted to do pretty early. So I got interested in like trying out for a play when I was in 7th grade, and I was scared to do it. So I had a private audition because I was too embarrassed to audition. The way they used to do it in school was you audition in front of everyone who's auditioning, and I was too scared. So my dad called the drama teacher and was like, can she get a private audition? She really wants to do it. So I went in privately, and he was like, well, I can't give you a role this way, but he was like, you can be the understudy for To Kill a Mockingbird, the lead in To Kill a Mockingbird. So I did that, and then I
Did you ever get on?
I did. They gave me the Sunday show. They gave me the Sunday matinee, and it was I think about it, and I'm just beaming because it was just the greatest. It was so much fun, and I loved it, and then I knew like that's what I wanted to do, but so then I acted all through high school, but I didn't do really well at it. Like I would never get like any really good roles until I was a senior, and I was really frustrated by that because I couldn't dance. So like, and I could kind of sing. I wasn't doing musicals, and then Drama, I was just like kind of flatlining. But then I tried out for a comedy, and I got like the funniest role in this comedy. I forget the name of it. The Musical Murders of 1940s something or something like that.
Really?
But
Never heard of that.
yeah, it was a weird one, but it was I played a drunk, and I'd never gotten drunk before in my life. At this point, I was a senior in high school. That'll show you how I wasn't popular. Proof. I'd never gotten drunk before, but I based the character off my mom, who I knew had gotten drunk, and I just kind of played what I saw she acted like when she got drunk. And so it was a big hit, and everyone was like, you clearly have been drunk before. Like everyone thought I was like showing my cards, but I was like, no, unfortunately, I just was my mom in that series. So, but I got that was like my first foray into comedy, and I got a good reaction, but I didn't still at that time recognize that that's what I was good at. And then I went to college, and I kind of reinvented myself. I went alone to University of Colorado, didn't have any friends or anything, didn't know anyone, and I kind of was just like, I'm going to start over. And I was just really, I guess, I tried to be funny because I was overcompensating for, not to get too dark, but I had anorexia, and so I was like a skeleton when I went to college. Like I looked really alarmingly thin. And so for me, I think now looking back on it, I was super funny so that people would forget what I looked like in a way that like a fat kid makes a lot of jokes so that people don't make the first joke about them. I think that's what I was doing. And so then instantly I was hearing a lot of people were like, oh my God, you should be a comedian. And like, I just jumped at that. I was like, okay, good. I want to know what I want to do. I was like, oh, if people are telling me to do this, I'll go do it. So I tried it. And I had never even like watched stand-up really growing up, here and there, but I didn't really know anything about it. And then as soon as I started like, combing the internet and watching, I saw Sarah Silverman, and I was like, all right, that's it. That's definitely what I want to do.
Mm. And did that help with your anorexia?
Did it help make me more anorexic?
Yes,
probably yes.
No, I meant like it just sort of gave you a meaning to your life, and so
yes.
then you felt better about yourself. And
totally, I think that it gave me something else to. Yeah, I was in counseling. I transferred schools because I was pretty sick and just needed to be closer to home. So I transferred to Kansas, and I had friends there from high school who went to Kansas. So I transferred there and had more of a home base my sophomore year. But that's when I really got into comedy because there was a club much closer than when I was going in Colorado, and it was in Kansas City. And so I was going to therapy there, and so I got help for it in that way. But also I think comedy did help a lot because it gave me something else to become obsessed with, because having an eating disorder is all about the OCD of like the control and the, just every thought is about food and about what, it's very obsessive. But then, I think most comedians starting out will understand, like whenever I meet a new comic, I can see this obsession in them with like, they just want to absorb everything, and and that's the way I was. So I just was, my whole life became comedy. And so it kind of took less power from my anorexia. And then I was able to kind of get out of it, which was. So
you forgot not to not eat.
Not that I forgot not to, but I gave more. It seemed like I had something to live for suddenly.
Right. And that was the crux of it before, you think?
Yeah. Like I had been at a point where I was ready to like throw in the towel in terms of I was so sick and I didn't see a point in my life where I was ever going to eat again, or that I could get, even though I knew that's what I needed to do to live. I, in my head, could not see myself doing that. I couldn't. It was impossible I can't really describe what that is like, but I was just like, this will probably kill me. And I was okay with it because, this is so dark, but like, not eating, I was okay with it because living that life was torture, being hungry all the time and being tired and being so thin and having everyone worry about you and not going anywhere without everyone staring at you. I mean, the whole life was utter hell. But at the same time, I couldn't, even though it was frustrating to everyone around me, just eat. Like I couldn't do it. So it was like, it was complete hell. And so there were points, and I've never really admitted this, but I mean, I was just completely suicidal. Like I was just trying to pretty much kill myself. Like I knew that at any moment my heart could give out, and I did almost die. I was hospitalized and all this stuff. But suddenly, yeah, comedy was like, oh, I found a calling. I found something else like, not that my family and my friends weren't enough to live for, but I was like, oh, I have a purpose in life suddenly. So and I'm good at it. And it makes me feel good. And then, yeah. So I think I just realized that comedy did kind of save me.
It must have been hell for your family and friends too.
Oh, it was
how
hell.
many years are we talking about?
We're talking, it was fast for me. It first happened when, let's see, I was 17. I was about to graduate. It was like, yeah, it was like 10 years ago in March of this year. It was like March 2002 it came on, just because I was on a diet for prom or something like that. And shed a couple pounds, got positive reinforcement. And then I was like, that feels good that people think I'm pretty now. And then, and I was never fat. I was just, maybe a little big bone, but not even. Like, no one would ever describe me as fat, but I lost weight and I was suddenly skinny and everyone was telling me how pretty I was. And so I was just ran with that. I was like, oh, well, I'll just keep doing whatever it is I'm doing, which was not eating. And I lost a lot of weight very quickly. And then by July, I was in the hospital. It was started in March, and then by July, I was hospitalized. And then I kind of tricked everyone into thinking that I was okay because I wanted to get out of the hospital. And then, it's being anorexic is super manipulative. And so I lied and, made people think I was eating when I wasn't, and convinced my parents that I was okay to go to college. Then I went to school and was, super sick at school, but had everyone convinced I was fine, and, had myself convinced I was fine pretty much. And then did comedy. And so I think it was a very gradual ease out of it. I mean, I gained, weight very, very slowly, but I would say that I still struggle with the thoughts and like it's always going to be a part of my life. I don't think that I'll ever really get out of it. I am aware now of what I need to do to live and to be healthy. And so I'm constantly fighting it, and I'm not as naive and ignorant as I was before about nutrition. And obviously I want to live, but I would say that I got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm out of the woods, like probably 24. Wow. So like 5 years of it was pretty bad.
And when you went to the hospital, what made you arrive at the hospital? What was it that you couldn't walk, or you?
I was passing out a lot on my, like, people didn't see it happening, but I would get up, quickly. And because I wasn't eating anything, I would just, I would black out, and I would always like regain consciousness fairly quickly. But, it was getting to a point where I was like, oh shit, like I'm in a bad way here, but still kind of lying to myself and in denial about it. And then I went, I was going to college, so I had to go get a physical for just, to go off to school, just a general physical. And my mom took me to the doctor, and my parents were in denial too, because I had them tricked pretty thoroughly. And all my friends were super concerned, and the school was concerned, and they told my parents, but my parents just, I was like, I'm on a diet, like it's calmed down. And they knew something was up, but they just didn't want to believe that I was gonna die, or to like something, like they just, they couldn't come to terms with it. So they didn't maybe do what they maybe should have done sooner. But I don't blame them for anything, because I was very manipulative at this time. So my mom brought me to the hospital for this physical, and they took my pulse. And it was so low that they said, we can't let you leave legally without it being on us. If something happened to you, we would be liable for it because we know that you're about to drop dead. And so suddenly I was there for a physical, and they were like, we have to check you in. And because this is clearly psychological, you're going to go in the psych ward. And so I, flipped out. My mom flipped out. And suddenly I was just sent over to this other section of the hospital where I was in a psych ward for, I think it was, I'm going to say 2 weeks. It could have been less than that, but it felt like forever. And it was kind of a blur. I was on a lot of medication. So I was kind of knocked out for a lot of it because I was very upset about being there. And the teen ward was full. So they had to send me upstairs to like the elderly ward. So I was with a bunch of like,
one flew over the cuckoo's nest.
Yes. I was with like many elderly, senile, very sick people, all mental illness stuff. And that was hell. And I wanted to get out of there. So I was like, okay, I'll gain whatever the 3 pounds you need me to gain to convince that I'm on the right track. And so I did that, and then I got out and never went back. Thank God.
Well, you're still thin.
Yes.
How much heavier now are you than you were at your worst?
I'm pretty thin right now, and that's only because whenever I get on TV, I kind of drop weight. It's just I don't know. I don't really try, but I recently quit drinking too, so I'm discovering that running has become like my new thing. So I am thinner than I usually am right now because I've been running a lot because I'm figuring out how to fill the void that drinking once filled. Sorry, I just spit on you. But I was down to, I think my lowest, and when you're anorexic, they don't tell you what you weigh when you're in the hospital because then it becomes a numbers obsessive game. But I think the lowest I remember hearing was 98 pounds, and I'm, 5'9", so it's pretty low.
So you're not just manipulating me by saying, no, now I'm running. I'm losing some weight.
You don't know. I think, no, but like I said, I'm not out of the woods. I'm out of the woods as I will not die from anything, some self-inflicted starvation or anything like that. I'm not anorexic anymore, and I completely believe that I am not. But I have a terrible fear of being fat. Absolutely. That will always be with me. And especially in this industry, I think that a lot of people have it, whether or not they're anorexic or not. And it's hard not to when everyone on TV is thin. The camera does add 10 pounds, and the pressure is there to be thin. And I still struggle with it. And, but it's not something that I'm obsessive over anymore, and it's not something that I'm concerned about for myself anymore.
Well, you do have a Diet Coke.
I do have a Diet Coke, but a lot of people, now I'm getting defensive. A lot of people drink this, okay?
What else? And a water.
No,
that's your lunch?
And a water. Yeah, this is my, how dare you? I am healthy. I try to be.
You look healthy.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah, I don't know
but it's
much
a struggle.
about the disease. It is a disease.
Yes, it is.
Is it like alcoholism where you will always be that?
No, because being anorexic has a very there's a definition to it. It's when someone refuses to stay a healthy weight. Someone like I would have to be an unhealthy weight, which I'm not. For my height, I'm maybe a little below average, but I'm still average or whatever. But you have to be at a point where you will not gain the weight necessary to be healthy, and I do not fit that definition any longer. But I think, and I don't think that you have to struggle with it forever. I think that there is, I'm definitely going to get back into therapy because I feel like, quitting drinking for me, which I did 5 months ago, was like a huge thing for me. And I think that has made me kind of step backwards into the eating stuff because it's, can't, what am I trying to say here? I'm searching for ways to deal with whatever it is I'm dealing with. And for me, drinking filled that void for a while. And I think it took the pressure off all the eating stuff. When I was drinking, I was able to put a lot of my angst into that. And now that that's gone, I'm kind of slipping back into like the eating disordery behavior, but not in a way that I think is detrimental, in a way that I'm aware of and that I'm proactive about. Were you
drinking to excess?
Of course, yes, yeah. Yes.
You're a comic.
Yes, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the
bars.
problem. Yeah, and it's kind of the problem with the eating stuff too. It's because like you can't you have to eat. Food is always going to be a part of your life. You have to be around it to survive. So it's something that you have to deal with on a daily basis, whether you want to or not. And the same with drinking. It's like I'm around it every night. And but I'm really happy with not drinking. It's made my life has changed a lot in the past 5 months. Maybe because of it, maybe not. But I'm in a way better place because I'm not drinking.
Well, I think you've proved to all now that you weren't the secure person in high school. But have you talked about this on stage?
I haven't talked about. I've talked about this on other podcasts, and it really is something now that I'm just now comfortable even admitting to, because there's a lot of shame involved with it, and the fact that I'm still dealing with stuff. I feel like me talking about it makes it sound like, oh, I'm okay now, and it's like, who knows if I am, but it's not something I'm ready to like make fun of yet. And I'm ready to make fun of it. I haven't found a way to make light of it. I have a joke about, my mom, or whenever I go, the only thing where I kind of touch on it is where I have a joke where I say my mom, whenever I go home, my mom is like, come hungry, because she likes to see me thin. Right. So that's the only place where I've kind of like poked at it, but I would like to explore it more because it's something obviously very personal to me and very close to me. But I don't want the audience to get in their heads then and look at me and be like, oh, is she like right now? She looks kind of thin right now. Like, I don't want it to distract them, and I don't want people to be worried about me. I need to have more of a handle over it before I start tackling it. And this is same for quitting drinking. I feel like I have a lot of jokes about drinking that now I don't feel comfortable doing because they're not me. And also, I don't feel comfortable saying that I don't drink because, first of all, I'm performing in comedy clubs where people are drinking, and I don't want them to feel like I judge them for drinking. And I want them to buy drinks because that's the whole point of it. And so that's a weird area for me to get into.
So much to consider.
Yeah, so I think that mostly I'm saving all that for my one-woman show or a book. I plan on writing a book about my struggles someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, to maybe help others, or I don't know, something like that.
But you still have a vagina, so you can always talk about that.
Always. And everything's in good health down there. So I have no problem talking about that. Yeah, that's, my dad often says, my dad calls my act the Vagina Monologues, which I find very fitting. It's something that I really, there's nothing that I won't talk about except those sacred cows at this point. And because my dad always says, is there anything you won't talk about? And I go, not really. And now I realize there definitely is a lot that I won't talk about. But yeah, I have no problem talking about my vagina. I'm very removed from it.
So your dad and your mom have seen your act?
Yes.
And you talk about your mom?
Mm-hmm. I've done jokes about my mom being a booze hound on TV. I call her, she's not a booze hound. No. I just think that's, I mean, she is.
She is, but she's not a hound.
Yes. I don't want to imply
she's a
any canine inference there. But she likes to drink, and it's definitely affected me. And I kind of feel like, hey, I had to put up with you being a mess at times, so here's the payback.
So alcoholic.
I believe that everyone who drinks has a problem with drinking. I don't think there's a way to. Yeah,
I don't.
most people don't believe that way.
It says you will never lose an argument this way.
Yeah.
Oh, you say that, but
but it's because you're not. I read quit drinking. I read a book that has changed my thoughts about drinking. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that we have lots in common.
Mm-hmm.
My mother also alcoholic.
Yes.
And we were both English majors. Well, that's two things in common.
Yes, it is.
So because I didn't want to be like that.
Yeah.
I'm very careful. And, I think I've been drunk once in my life.
Okay. Yeah, you probably have a good argument for you obviously do not have a problem. I think that
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let that be stated for the record.
Well, definitely you do not. But then why drink?
Because it's delicious.
It's not.
Oh, some of it is.
It's not.
Why?
What alcohol is delicious?
Oh, you get those mixed drinks?
Aren't they better without alcohol? Aren't they just mixed because there's alcohol in it and you need to load in the fruit? Alcohol is a poison.
Say you have a rum and coke, a gin and tonic, those kinds of things.
I would argue with you that a gin and tonic would be more delicious without the gin in it.
Just tonic? Is that even done? You can drink tonic?
I think you can. It's just like sugary soda, club soda. My point is that I think I read this book, The Easy Way to Stop Drinking by Alan Carr. He also wrote The Easy Way to Stop Smoking. I stopped smoking 3 years ago because of it. Ellen DeGeneres talked about it on our show, and I was like, I wanted to quit smoking. And so I read it, and it's like this book that you read while you smoke. You can smoke throughout reading the whole book, but by the end of it, you don't want to smoke anymore. And it's very simple. There's no really cravings. It kind of, as a society, we're brainwashed to think that, cigarettes or drinking relax us or they take the edge off, and it's all bullshit. And so it kind of breaks down those arguments or those excuses for why you do imbibe or smoke. And so I read this book, The Easy Way to Stop Drinking, and alcohol is it's a poison. And so we convince ourselves that these drinks taste good when they do not. Isn't
that subjective though?
No, it's a straight up. Alcohol is
like Brussels sprouts don't taste good.
Oh, they do.
See, I could say no, they don't. You just like them because they're good for you.
That could be. I could be lying to myself the way that you are about that gin and tonic. So I will admit that
though?
I could be.
I just discovered gin and tonic 2 summers ago. Look how old I am.
Yeah.
And I went to a friend's house, had it outside in their yard. I go, how come I haven't known about this drink? This is wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Keep telling yourself that.
But not to excess.
Exactly. Well, that's I don't see the point in drinking for me if it wouldn't be to get very drunk.
Ah, yeah.
And so
I've heard that. Some people go, why bother?
Yeah, I just one glass of wine is not gonna cut it from. It's just like I'd rather just not do it. But I obviously would rather have one than get completely blackout now that I look at what that means for me. So I I choose not to now. It's not a struggle. It's simple for me. But I used to drink every single night. This was up till December 10th, 2011, because I do comedy every single night. I don't ever really take any time off. And so it was always around, and it was just like, it's getting to a point where and then I got this pilot around the same time, and I had to be working during the day. I couldn't just sleep a hangover off until 4 p.m. and then get up and do comedy again. The drinking lifestyle is it's perfect for comedy because you stay up all night and then you sleep off your hangover and then you feel great again and you go do it again. But when you have to work during the day, suddenly it's you can't do it. And I realized that pretty quickly, that if I wanted to do anything else besides stand up, it was going to have to go.
When did you ever have a day job? You've been doing stand up a long time. When did that stop?
Oh, I struggled through some hangovers. The last time I had a day job, I was a nanny. When I moved to LA straight out of college, I temped. I got fired from a temp job once, which they were like, "This isn't temporary enough. We need you to leave now."
Halfway through the day?
At the end of the day, I was supposed to go in for like 3 days. I just couldn't work the phones. I just didn't give a shit, And it wasn't like I was I didn't care enough to really want to learn or to try hard. So I would just be thrown into these office jobs that I just didn't care and was miserable at, and probably showing hung over too. And so I temped a lot. And then I was also an English teacher for one semester.
High school?
Yeah. Well, it was a summer school program for Korean American students. Because in Korea, kids go to school year round. And so their Korean parents were like, you don't get the summers off. So they would send them, whether or not they needed summer school or not, they sent them to this prep school. And so I had...
So it was an English language, teaching them English.
No. They were all English speaking. So it was just an English course, English lit course.
There's your pilot.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. It really is. It was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. I would love to teach again. It was... because you have the performance aspect. And I also loved being in high school again and I was kind of like the first couple of days I was like the cool teacher. And then I quickly learned that they just walk all over you. And then I became they were like, what happened to Nikki teacher? That's what they called me, because that's the Korean way, Nikki teacher. And so I taught English for a summer semester. It was super fun.
Because you have your degree in English.
I do.
And that's all you need, just a BA?
Yeah, just a BA for this, because it wasn't like a school. It was a prep school. So it was like just a business that they, and I was qualified. I felt like I was, I had to take, I think maybe I had to take some kind of like, standardized test to show that I still was efficient and all that stuff. But, and I definitely had to submit essays and, to get the job and stuff. But, it was really fun. And then I was nannying for a while. Because that's just the easiest job to get, especially being a blonde girl who smiles a lot. Parents trust
and
you.
Who loves kids.
Whether or not I do, I can really act like I do. No, I do love kids. And so I love them now more than I did then, because I think now I have more of like the baby fever thing going on, where I can see myself being a mom, whereas opposed to when I was babysitting, I was just like, ugh, kids, they're so gross. But it was fun. And I nannied for, I got set up in this nannying service that was like dispatched nannies in Hollywood. And so a lot of times I would be nannying for directors that were coming to town from New York or whatever, shooting commercials or whatever. But I got hooked up. I was a nanny for Judd Apatow, the film director.
Really?
For many months.
And did he know you were doing comedy?
He did. He found out. Oddly,
you didn't tell him?
I didn't tell him because it just never came up, and I thought it was probably inappropriate to, and maybe suspicious of what my intentions were, because I really just wanted to do it because, obviously, because it'd be cool, and I get to talk about it on podcasts for the rest of my life. But I did it. I didn't ever want them to question my intentions. But that being said, they knew Judd knew that I did comedy. He found out because Doug Benson, the comedian, knows him, and I was supposed to go as Doug's like date. Well, we're friends, but I was supposed to accompany him to this red carpet event, but I couldn't go because I was babysitting for Judd. And he ran into Judd, and he was like, "My date is babysitting for you tonight." And Judd got home that night and was like, "You do comedy and you hang out with Doug Benson?" So, and I was like, "Yeah." And so he kind of looked at me like, "You smoke pot?" And I was like, "Yeah, but look, of course I'm not going to do that in front of your kids." So like, he was super cool. His wife was really nice, Leslie Mann.
He probably smokes pot too.
He definitely has that. Did, yes, and he gets it. All of his movies have pot in them. He gets it. He knows that just because you smoke pot doesn't mean you're irresponsible with children. And I was a good nanny to those kids. Yeah. So, but eventually, I did not get called to babysit anymore for them because at the time I was nannying, he was casting Funny People, the movie about comedians.
Perfect.
Right. I think so too.
Yeah.
But he was casting the role of the female comic in the movie who was, I think, described in the script as like a 25-year-old stand-up comedian woman. And word was that he was going around to the comedy clubs like the Improv and the Laugh Factory and UCB clubs around town, and he was like scouting female comics. Like he wanted a female comic, not an actress, to play the role. And I'm like, Judd, I'm right in front of you. Like I was really frustrated by hearing this because I couldn't get in on these auditions for whatever reason. And I'm just like, and I see scripts of Funny People lying around his house when I'm there. And I'm just like, good Lord, like it's all staring me in the face. And I was like, I had his email and I'm just like, and I didn't really interact with him so much as his assistant. And I talked to a lot of my friends and I just at one point was like, I'm going to put my job on the line. I didn't move to Hollywood to be the best babysitter I could be. I moved here to like make it in the industry. So I sent him an email and I was like, I know how highly inappropriate this is. And I want you to know that I never took the job babysitting for you to ever ask you a question like this. And I wouldn't ask you a question like this unless you were making a movie about the one thing that I do. But may I have an audition for that role? And those were 3 very painful weeks when I didn't hear back from him.
Didn't hear back.
And I didn't get a call to come in and babysit anymore. But then I was on the road in Richmond, Virginia, and I got an email from him and he said, sure thing, here's your audition. So I got to audition for it. By that time, I heard word that he had already cast Aubrey Plaza in it. So I'm going to assume, and she's a much better actress than I am. So, good on him for casting her. But he did give me the audition, and I got to, audition in front of one of the most famous casting directors in the business, and it was really nice of him.
How did you do?
I did all right. I think I did okay.
Did you come away thinking maybe?
Yes, I definitely did. But I also thought, it's unlikely. But I was glad that I did it. Ultimately, I don't think I overstepped my bounds. And he follows me on Twitter now, so I feel like I always felt like, oh God, when I run into him someday, it's going to be awkward. But I feel like now we could laugh about it.
Because at the time you had done Last Comic Standing 1, right? 2004?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he didn't even know that.
No, he didn't know that. Maybe he had Googled me and seen that, but I doubt it.
Right.
I mean, I don't.
And you advanced pretty far in that.
Yeah, for my age and my experience,
I remember
way too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made it to the semifinals.
Way too far, you said.
Yes.
At the time, you didn't think that.
No. Well, I knew.
How much material did you have at that point?
Oh my God.
We saw it all.
Yeah. I mean, everything that was appropriate for TV. I think I probably had a good 7 minutes. And that is so funny for me to think now. Which seemed like a lot at the time.
It seemed like enough of appropriate for TV material now.
No, I have much more. People assume that I get very raunchy in my stage act, but I've got a lot of TV ready stuff. I just choose to be raunchy. But no, I had like 7, maybe 5 minutes. I mean, I had nothing. And because it was all very...
Did you have an agent then? Did
No.
you have to stand? You didn't stand in line.
I did.
You
I did. Yeah.
You're probably like the only one who ever advanced.
There's a short list of us. I think there's like 5 of us who I know of from my season on who ever advanced while standing in line. I drove to Chicago from Kansas City, which is like a 10-hour drive, maybe more, with 7 other comedians, male comics that were in Kansas City at the time, and they were like, let's go audition for Last Comic Standing. And I was like, that's cool, let's do a road trip. So we rented a van and we drove there, and it was so fun. A bunch of late 20s. I was young at the time. I was I think I was 20 at the time, but all these guys were in their late 20s and 30s, and we drove up there, and it was in the winter and it was snowing, and we got in line, and it was too cold for us to wait through the night. So they just gave us numbers and we're like, come back tomorrow. So we went back the next day, waited for a couple hours, and went in. I remember just I was shaking because I was so cold from being outside, and I was like jumping around trying to warm up so I could go on stage. And then I went on stage, and the the judges at the time were the two bookers for the Tonight Show. Still are,
Right.
Bob and Ross.
Yes.
And
Hilarious guys.
yeah. Nice guys and funny
Nice
in their
guys.
own right, but not comedians. And they I did a couple jokes and they both were complimentary and they were like, "How long you been doing it?" And I was like, I think I said 2 years, but that was a lie.
What was it really?
I think it was like, probably 6 months altogether, like if you add it up. Because I really got into it when I was 20 and I auditioned when I was 20. So I think like 6 months. And so I said 2 years just because I knew that would maybe help a little bit. And they were like, "No, we just don't think you're ready, but good job." And that was fine with me. Like they didn't say anything mean and they had a point. I wasn't ready. So I hung the mic up and I was walking off stage and then I heard Bob say to Ross, "I really liked her." And then I heard Ross go, "I could be convinced." And I heard that and I went back to, I don't know what I was thinking, but I went back to the microphone and I grabbed it and I was like, "Can I do another joke?" And they were like, "All right." So I did another joke and then they were like, "Okay, we'll see you tonight." And so that's how I was out. I was knocked out. And then I asked to do another joke like some idiot that you see. I think I started the trend of like, can I do another song? Can I do another joke in these reality competitions? I think I was the first one to really do that.
Does it often work out?
Never. I was the only one that I think it worked. You see it on American Idol all the time. My dad was the one who was like, "I think you were the one who kind of started that whole trend." But you see these poor people like, "Can I just do one more song?" And then they just sing another terrible song terribly. But it worked out for me. And then I went to LA and I was in way over my head there. I got there and I like ran into Doug Benson, who was is still one of my favorite comedians. And I didn't know him at the time personally, but I was a huge fan. And I saw him in the lobby of the hotel that we were all staying at the day we checked in. I flew in from Kansas.
Was he on that season?
He was on that season.
Right. You're going up against.
And I went up to him and I was like, "Oh, hi, I'm like a big fan." And I like was just gushing over him. And I was like, "What are you doing here? Like what?" And he was like, "I'm on the show." And I was like, "What show?" And he's like, "Last Comic Standing." I'm like, "What?" Like I thought like maybe he was judging it or something, but I'm like, "I'm up against you." I was like, ugh. And then my confidence kind of went down, but it was fun. I got to, be on TV. It was great.
Confidence should have shot up because here you were.
Yeah. I think maybe there was a part of me that was like, maybe I got a shot. Like I'm the underdog, but thank God I did not advance because it would have just gotten real sad.
Nobody would have liked you.
I would have the internet would have gotten really mean. Because I didn't belong in that show yet.
The internet is not a kind place.
No, it's not. I don't read comments or anything. Learned.
Yeah, nobody would have liked you had you won. So you got to the semifinals?
Yeah. Yes.
And
it was like top 40.
Who?
That means the top 40.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it sounds a lot better than it is. Yeah. Well, it's still a big deal because, thousands audition, as they say.
Yes, they do. And so the fallout from that, when you finish, it was all good though, because you did well.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
How did the guys you came up in the van do?
That was funny because we had to drive back the next morning and I was the only one who made it through. And so it was a very
gloating.
Because afterwards we went out and celebrated and I got so drunk and really sick the next day and they all could give two shits about me being sick. There's footage of me puking on the highway, them filming me as I got running out of the car and puking on the side of the highway. And they were just like, "Screw you, Glaser." Because I was just like miserable and puking and they could care less. But yeah, they were all very supportive and still are. They're great.
Did you also start the trend of people coming back to reality shows? See this in The Bachelor a lot.
Oh, yes.
Right? You came back 2007, 3 years later?
2010.
6 years later.
Yes.
And the storyline
No, I'm sorry. I did it originally in 2006.
Okay.
4 years later. Yes.
You came back and the storyline was, she's been working on her act. She's ready. You were confident.
Oh, I was totally confident.
You thought, if I get to the semifinals with nothing,
yeah,
just watch this, world.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was totally top 10 material. And I mean, I probably was. I could have done well, but I made. I was a little still too green, and right now, I think I would be way more ready. I still wouldn't want to do it now, though. I don't think I'd be looking at who makes it far on that show. Like those guys are like super good, and I think I'm really good. But at the time, I had all the confidence in the world, and I was really sad when I didn't make it. I was in a bad place because I'd moved out of LA. I was living at home with my parents. I was in St. Louis, and that's why I auditioned again. I was just like, I got nothing going on. This is here. Anyone can audition. It's like, why wouldn't I do it? And then I made it through, and so I was like, oh, I'll do this again, and this time we'll make it to the top 10, and I didn't. I made it just as far as I did, and it was really awful. Thank God no one watched that season.
I watched.
Oh no, God damn it! I cried on camera. I mean, they got it all. It was. I was sad.
How long did that last?
How long did what last? Me being sad about it?
Yeah.
Not long, actually. That was a quick comeback. I got back to St. Louis. I flew back, and that plane ride home was certainly really sad. But then I just kind of that was. Let's think. Yeah, I got done shooting that show in April. It aired in June. And in that time, I was like, I'm ready to get out of St. Louis. I'd been living at home for a year. And I was like, I need to make my next move. And I was becoming a headliner at that point. And I was making a little bit more money on the road. And then I decided I was going to move to New York. And so I moved to New York in October. And by then, I was ready to hit the road running. Then New York was really like, ugh, it was really depressing when I first got there. It was like, what am I doing? I can't get in any clubs. These credits don't mean shit. Everyone has them. It was hard. And then, so for my first year in New York, October 2010 till October 2011 was hard. I was ready to go back to LA. I was like, I need to switch something up. Because it was just like a struggle. It was like moving to a new city again. It was just like LA all over again.
But you knew people.
I knew people. It was different in that respect, for sure. One of my best friends, Amy Schumer, was like, she was the one that got me to move to New York. She was like, come here, I'll really help you out. And she did. She, recommended me at wherever I could be recommended. And I got in clubs here and there. But my whole goal in moving there was to work at the Comedy Cellar. I see it on Louis and in the movie Comedian, which I have loved since I started doing stand-up comedy. And I was just like, that's where I want to work, and I want to be a New York comic. And my first year there, I hung out at the Cellar a lot, and I was like trying to get in, but I just didn't want to overdo it. And it was, and then I had an audition there. It didn't go, like when I first got there, I auditioned there through a weird way, and it didn't go well. And I was like, fuck. Like I was totally demoralized, and then I stuck it out. I was doing the road a lot. I wasn't even in New York a lot because I was just working the road trying to survive so I could afford to live there. And then October 2011, I got an opportunity. I was at the Cellar late at night one night, and Amy came up to me and was like, you're going to audition because you have to audition to get in. And I got a real audition that time, and I went on stage at like 2 a.m, had a great set.
Your dad called, made sure no one else was in the room.
Yeah. Exactly. Great callback. And I went up, and that was like a huge changing point in my life. It's the best thing that's ever happened in my career is working at the Comedy Cellar. It's like, it's heaven. It's changed
and you feel
everything.
Accepted.
Yeah, I mean, not even. I feel accepted in the sense that like saying you can work at the Comedy Cellar for me is the best credit I have for other comics, for just in terms of clout. It's just like, it's the best club in the world in pretty much everyone's opinion who knows what they're talking about. It really is. And it's the comics who perform there. I'm just like blown away that I get to go on after Dave Attell sometimes, or Louis C.K. or Chris Rock. Like, these are guys that I'm on shows with. It just like blows my mind. And I do not for 1 second think that I am on their level. It's awesome to be able to perform there. And it's made me a better, because I feel the pressure to be so much better. It's made me a better comic.
Right. you're doing this on an off night when you're not out on the road, right?
Yeah, I do. I work. I'm privileged enough to get spots at the Comedy Cellar pretty much every night that I'm not on the road. Every night I'm in New York. So, yeah, like tomorrow night I fly all day and then I arrive at the airport and go straight to the Cellar. It's like it gives me the same kind of it's like a home base. It's like where I call that work. I've never called like a place work since I worked in like a restaurant. So it's fun to be, and I'm friends with all the wait staff. It feels like work. It's but also home. It's the best. It is.
But you're doing shorter sets, right?
Yeah, I do 15-minute sets, which are longer for like in terms of city spots. But it's so fun. The crowds are so good. The room, it's just like there's so much history in that place.
Right.
It's one of those things where every time I walk into that place, I'm like, I'm the luckiest woman alive. Like I really feel so blessed. It's the best.
I was seeing you at Yuck Yucks here a couple nights ago. You seem to really enjoy your time on stage.
Thanks.
Now, I know that could all be...
this could all be a lie.
Yeah, but at least you fake it well.
Thanks. I think sometimes you do have to fake it because who's always happy to do what they're doing? I have to perform whether I want to or not.
Were you having a bad day or whatever?
Yeah, like I can be... there are times when before I go on stage, I'm like, this is the fucking last thing I want to do. I mean, my parents all the time would be like, why do you even do this? Because I'd always be like, I don't want to go to do a set tonight. But at the second I walk on stage, that all goes out the window. And I never remember that. Like I'll be dreading it up to, not every night or anything like that. But like for now, I feel like for the most part, I love going on stage. But there are times where I'm like, I'm tired or I'm sick or anything. But it all goes away when I get up there. But there are times when I'm on stage and it's just like, oh, got to go on autopilot because I'm not feeling this crowd. But if the crowd is fun, which these crowds in Yuck Yucks have been like dreams. The Vancouver crowds, and I'm not pandering. I mean, smart, and they get subtlety, which I have a lot of in my act. Like I just, say things under my breath, or there's like little asides. And a lot of places don't get that, and you have to just scream jokes at them, and it's just it makes you a worse comic. But here it's like they're listening to every little thing you say, and so it's so much fun to just like the subtlety it's fun to have fun.
First time here?
Yeah. Well, no, it's the second time here. I did a college. I forget. I don't even know what college it was, but I did some community college, which was like a weird show that my friend Sabrina put together years ago. But this is my first time here.
Huh. And you mentioned Sarah Silverman earlier. The comparison I would have...
Wendy Liebman.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
It's those little asides that you say.
Just Kevin Nealon a lot too, but people don't compare me to him because he's a boy. But yes, Wendy Liebman. I think that in that mixed totals, I love her so much. And she was one of the first comics I ever saw as like a kid. And I remember my dad laughing at her harder than
she's great.
I've ever seen my dad laugh at a woman. And so I think that to me has always influenced me. Like, I'm like, I need to make dad laugh the way that woman did. I remember her joke about, guys, I just quit smoking crack. And I'm really like that.
Yes.
That joke, I remember him like dying at that. And I was like, I want to do that. So that joke alone influenced, shaped me completely as a comedian. And I hope she created that whole genre. I think of that adding one word.
I think she did. Yeah,
I think she totally did. And I took that right from her and run with it. But she has we're friends on Twitter, and she has given me her blessing too.
Oh, that's good. She was out of it for a while, and now she's performing again.
Yeah, I don't think she was ever out of it, but she just wasn't on TV and stuff. Like I think she's always.
I think she took a break.
Did she?
I think so.
I would love to interview.
Tweet her and ask.
I should. She's back. I just watched her special on Showtime. She's so funny, and she's just I owe her a lot in terms of my style.
I used to follow her on Twitter too.
Used to?
Used to.
What happened?
I stopped following people when they tweet too much.
Oh, yeah. She does tweet a lot. She does.
Nothing personal. I still love her.
Yeah.
And you mentioned trying to please your dad. You're a daddy pleaser, right?
Yeah, I'm a daddy's girl for sure. I don't have to try though. He's very
Easy to please.
yes. Well, and for me, he likes me a lot. I've always been daddy's girl.
And they're pretty liberal parents.
Very.
I mean, you mentioned
to a fault.
pot smoking.
Yes.
That's another thing we have in common.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's
My mother. Yes.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So obviously you're fine with saying anything and them hearing it.
Yeah, they really have they've gotten better about it because obviously I would, if I had a daughter who talked like I did in front of my parents, I would be so embarrassed. And my dad has actually said to me recently that like he was like, when I first watched you and when I first started comedy, I said, if you can believe it, much worse things on stage. I mean, I would try to be Sarah Silverman times 1,000. Like I just was like, I'll do that, but even worse. I would say the worst things on stage because for me, I wasn't getting laughs in the beginning because no one does when you first start out, really. And so I would just get groans from people, and I thought that was like the same thing. So I was just like chasing the groans.
Any audible
Yes,
sound.
it was better than silence,
Yeah.
and it still would be to me. But yeah. So I would just say awful things. And my dad recently said to me, like, when you first started out, you didn't have the stage presence and the skill to say the stuff you were saying, and that's why it upset us. But now I can shake my head in the back of the room, but you have a right to do whatever you want now because you have the skill. So that was like, it was nice to hear that. And recently I was on this radio show and I was just saying explicit things and being very, just talking honestly about sex and stuff. And my parents have Sirius. And so before I went on the show, I was like, hey, listen to me, I'm on this. And I knew they would be up in the morning. And I didn't know that the conversation was going to go there. So when I got out of the studio, I was like, I am so sorry. And my dad was like, we don't care anymore. Like my dad compared me to Howard Stern. He was like, people enjoy that honesty. And I know I'm your dad, but like, I can appreciate it. So like, I got his blessing now. So now I'm good.
What's he do?
My dad works in the cable industry. He was an executive for cable sales for a really long time. And now he just kind of works freelance for different cable systems from home. And my mom is a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, we know why.
Because we were like, stay-at-home mom. That's my joke.
Hey, Nikki Glaser. Mm-hmm. It's a gorgeous day. You got to get out on the town.
Do I?
And do something.
God, part of me just... I stay in so many shitty hotels, and this one's so nice that in my apartment in New York is so shitty that...
You're in Queens, right?
Yeah, and my apartment's a real shithole, and so I just... When I'm on the road, I feel like it's home, and so I'm just like, I just want to stay in and enjoy it, but I got to get out.
This is a gorgeous
so nice
view.
out.
Just sit in here for.
I know,
the rest
isn't
of
it
the
beautiful?
afternoon. Watch the planes land.
Yeah, it's really nice. They treat you well here.
They do. You should come back.
I would love to. I really these shows have been great. I would love to like tape a CD here or something. I feel very liberated on stage. I feel like the best version of myself.
Come back.
I will.
And come back on this show.
I would love to. This was a really
Excellent.
fun interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Jerry.
Who's Jerry? How did that happen? I don't know. Thanks to Nikki Glaser for the illuminating hour and a bit. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. Next week we're back live in studio with live guests from Vancouver Theatre Sports League, Jay Ono and Pierce Visser. We're double teaming next week. Come back, tune in. Thanks a lot.